Mark Rogers TV just waiting for the final numbers to come in for Washington to take its final shot to the end zone as they made it to the Alabama red zone or just to the fringe, but could not convert. Bama wins at 24-7. Deshaun Watson, JT Barrett, this is what you might have to deal with next. The best front seven in college football, maybe the best of all time. That's an argument for another day. Washington was dominated on this day from that standpoint, but defensively, Washington acquitted itself extremely well. We'll get to that in just a second, because the turning point in the game, not that Alabama still would not have won the game, but what sealed the deal and was the backbreaker was when Washington continually stopped Alabama in its own territory. So the Huskies defense was phenomenal for most of this game. Think about this. For 6 consecutive series, for both Alabama and Washington in the second quarter, there were punts, 6 straight series. Then there was the pick 6, which was obviously damaging. And then to start the second half, 6 straight punts on series. So Washington doing its job on defense. But the backbreaker was when Jake Browning had the pooch kick into the coffin corner at the 2-yard line, and Washington stuffed Alabama on the first 2 plays of that drive, and it was 3rd and 10. And then Bo Scarborough shot up the middle. It was a well-designed, well-executed play in terms of the blocking scheme and the trap, and shot it out for a first down at the 20-yard line. And then a couple plays later, he was off to the races, 68 yards, shed a number of tackles for the touchdown, and it was 24-7, and that was that. Think about it. Washington having Alabama 3rd and long at its own 2-yard line, down by just 10, still plenty of time in the game. That pretty much was the ball game right there. Washington came out on the second drive, and it was evident from the get-go, as we expected, that they would not be able to run straight ahead at Alabama, that they had to be gimmicky and had to figure out some things in regards to misdirection to try to fool Alabama to get any kind of a semblance of a running game going. And they needed Jake Browning to be able to throw from the pocket to his speedy wide receivers, Dante Pettis and John Ross. There was an interesting point made by Todd Blackledge in the game on the touchdown pass by the Huskies that Ryan Anderson came off the edge and put pressure on Browning, which forced a 3rd down and out on the first drive, but they adjusted the blocking scheme, gave Browning time. He threw a beautiful touchdown pass in the corner to Dante Pettis, and it was 7-0 Washington. Well, we've seen that 4 consecutive games now. Somebody jump on Alabama early, most recently in the SEC championship game when Florida had that scripted, beautiful drive to start out the game. Then Bama went to the power running game. They tried to throw it a little bit early, but Bo Scarborough went to work. His final numbers, pretty amazing. 19 carries for $180 on the day for the Crimson Tide, and the big rushes that I noted earlier. The big plays for Washington basically came down to this. They would have been right there, neck and neck, but John Ross fumbled when they were driving. They had gone 32 yards. They were in Alabama territory. He fumbles, and Alabama picks it up. That was a nice play by Avery Everett, and Jonathan Allen, who's always around the ball, picks it up and takes it back for Alabama. That sets up a field goal, and so it's 10-7 at that point. Jake Browning with the ill-timed interception, and they were moving the ball. Then they got a couple first downs. They were out to midfield, and then Browning gets picked off. He was under siege and gets picked off by Ryan Anderson, who takes it 26 yards for a touchdown. There you go. It's 17-7 at the half. It had the feel of the Michigan State game last year when Michigan State played so well on defense. It was no score for most of the first half. Then suddenly it's 10-0, and Connor Cook takes him down the field, mounts like a 75-yard drive, then throws a pick in the end zone. And you had that feel that that was it, that they needed that break. They needed to convert right there. And in this game, that made it 24-7. So Bama's punter, J.K. Scott, pinned, along with the kickoff teams and the kickoff and punt coverage teams, kept Washington inside its own 20 on 7 of 10 drives to start the game. That was obviously huge as well. Jalen Hurts didn't need to factor much in this game. Washington bottled him up on the ground. He was just 7 of 14 passing. Also, the Alabama speed on defense and the tackling ability shows up in this number. Jake Browning with 20 completions for $150. So he's only completing about 7 yards per pass completion and that converts to about 3+ yards per pass attempt. And of course, Washington couldn't run it. Sacks, 44 yards on 20-some carries. Alabama gets it done as Alabama does. They run the ball with a power running game. They wear you down in the fourth quarter, and they do it from first play to last play on defense with the front seven in particular. And really, we're threatened by the speed of Washington downfield because Browning just didn't have time to throw. Ross had 5 catches for 28 yards, one of the fastest guys in college football. And Dante Pettis, as we mentioned, the 16-yard touchdown. Other than that, 3 catches for 26 yards. So Myles Gaskin with a 20-yard pass reception. That was the big play for Washington as they just barely, right at the end of the game, got over 200 yards of total offense. Bama wins at 24-7. They wait for Clemson or Ohio State.